Hey everyone, my name is Michael from PolygonIsland, and today I'm going to be doing a pretty beginner tutorial on how to make a pumpkin. Okay, so this is kind of what we're going to be aiming for today, is just this scene right here, with like the pumpkins, the candles and stuff, except it's not going to have the actual jack-o'-lantern features on it, like the eyes, nose, mouth, teeth, all that. It's just going to be a pumpkin. It's just going to be really simple, and I figured a pumpkin because I've wanted to do a beginner sculpting tutorial for a while, and it's October, which is a spooky month in a lot of or at least in my country. I don't know if you live somewhere else, you might not even have hell. I don't know, but where I am, pumpkins happen. Okay, so we're gonna be making a pumpkin. I'm gonna be teaching you a pretty easy way to sculpt it. Pumpkins are really simple in themselves, but this tutorial is mainly to people who want to get familiar with the sculpting tools and how to do it. Okay, so first thing, you're probably going to be in a new project, which will look something like this, and I'm going to assume you know how to use Blender, and if you don't, there's a ton of tutorials on how to actually use it, but this tutorial I'm not going to go over it. It's just going to be the pumpkin. It's going to be the pumpkin, okay? Pumpkin. That's all this tutorial is. So, here's our default cube, and we're going to go ahead and delete it, since we're not going to use it. You could use it if you wanted to subdivide it a lot and get like a little bit better topology on your sphere, but it's too much of a hassle for me, honestly. But basically, we're going to Shift A, go over here to Mesh. Shift A brings up your admin. You can also go over here to Add, but Shift A is just easier. So just Shift A and add a sphere. Now, in Blender 2.8, there are these handy dandy little tabs up here for different purposes, okay? So the one we're going to be using the most today are layout and sculpting. So that's not to say that there aren't other uses that you might use in this, but that's just what we're going to be using today. So if we go over here to sculpting, we can see that it brings us into our sculpting menu, and we have all of our brushes. We have all of our sculpt menu stuff. Over here you have your symmetry. Right now I'd recommend leaving this X on. Dynamic topology, we're gonna turn this on in a second. What it does is it basically makes more polygon. It basically subdivides your object as you're sculpting, so it gives it a lot more detail as you're sculpting it. So take for example, let's say if I didn't have this on, you see that it's just sculpting the actual faces of the object itself. It's not very detailed, but if I turn it on, you can see that it's making more faces as I sculpt it, so it's more detailed. But that's what dynamic topology does. You're going to use it in a lot of sculpts. If you sculpt a lot, you'll find that out a lot. Most of your options are up here. If you don't find something, you can always go over here and do different stuff over here with brush settings and stuff. Basically, these switch brushes, you just go over here. There's also hotkeys for them, but I don't have them memorized. I know the smoothing brush is S, draw brush is X, grab brush is G. But other than that, I don't really know them. But to get the pumpkin started, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. Pumpkins come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. You might have small and flat pumpkins, or just really big and bulky pumpkins. But in this tutorial, the pumpkin that I'm gonna go for is a kind of round pumpkin that kind of looks like a sphere, but it's flat on the bottom and flat on the top. So the way we're going to do that is get the basic shape of the pumpkin is if we hit G on our keyboard to go into our grab brush. It's this one right here. This is exactly how it sounds. It grabs different vertices, it grabs faces, all sorts of stuff. So if you grab it right here, you can just grab them. At this point, we're going to turn dynamic topology on. I don't think you need it for the grab brush. I don't really think it makes a difference, but we're going to go ahead and turn it on because we're going to need it later anyway. But basically what we're going to do right now is just kind of flatten out, to resize your brush. To do this, you hit F, and to change the strength of your brush, you hit Shift F. So you can change the strength of it right there. But now what we're going to do is we're just going to grab the bottom of it and kind of bring it up a little bit. You might need to do this a little bit. It will get finicky. Just be aware of that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a flatten brush a little bit on here just to flatten out the parts that I couldn't really get flattened which are like right here, and I think that looks good. And we're basically going to do the same thing for the top, but the top is going to be a lot less apparent that it's supposed to be flat. So maybe something like that. Just bring it down a tad. Top doesn't really need to be flat a lot, but yeah, I'm also going to flatten out the bottom a little bit more. Something like that. Probably. You won't really notice the bottom, but it needs to be flat because that's how a pumpkin looks, okay? So now we're going to do the little creases that pumpkins have. Like the little, you know what I'm talking about. The defining feature of a pumpkin that makes it not just an orange blob. So how we're going to do that is we're going to use the crease brush, okay? And we can use the, I'm pretty sure Shift C is the shortcut for the crease brush. So you can either click it over here or just Shift C on your keyboard. And what we're going to do is we are going to change our dynamic topology to 5 pixels of detail size instead of 12. And we're basically just going to give it the creases. So just crease it. If you have this on, you can see on the other side it's doing the exact same thing too. So just keep creasing it. Give it the little. Try to make them evenly spaced, as evenly spaced as you can. If you can't, people probably aren't gonna notice. But it just, if you have very uneven like creases, very uneven creases, people are gonna notice. So it's just a good idea to just evenly space them because it looks nicer in the end. You don't have to crease it all the way up to the top here, but just kind of crease it all the way to the bottom to about this edge right here, and that's normally a pretty good amount. So now if we see it right here, we have our pumpkin creases. So if you want to, you can smooth them out a little bit if you think they're like too deep, which I'm probably gonna do a little bit right here of. Just kind of smooth them out a little bit. Okay, and now I'm just gonna hit my grab brush and bring the sides in a little bit. And I actually need to make it to where you just kind of bring the sides in like that a little bit more. I might need to crease it more to the bottom actually on some of these. Yeah, it's about like that. So about like that is what our pumpkin's at so far. If you want to, you can bring it up a little bit more, kind of like that. Going to smooth these out a little bit more. Just kind of bring it over here, smooth it out. I'm also going to these sides in a little bit more. Okay, so this is our basic shape of our pumpkin. That needs to be smoothed out more, so does this. This is our basic shape of our pumpkin so far. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into our layout panel. We're going to I'm going to link this shader in the description. It's a human skin shader, but if we tweak it and change the color of it, it makes a really good pumpkin shader, I guess. Makes it look pretty good the way the light reflects off of it because the subsurface scattering and stuff. Basically, I have it right here. I can just bring it in, select our pumpkin, go to material. It'll be M skin subsurface scattering, which is the SSS. I'm going to change the diffuse color to an orange, maybe like that. And the SSS2 color is going to be a lighter orange. The diffuse color is going to be the actual color of the pumpkin. And the SSS2 color is going to be the actual subsurface of the pumpkin, so what is inside the pumpkin. The best way to explain subsurface scattering is if you take a flashlight and shine it to your hand or something and you look through it, it's going to be red because the inside of you is red. So if you're doing a human, this would be red and this would be like a skin color. I'm going to turn this up a little bit in the brightness. We can look in cycles. see this. I'm also going to shade it smooth. Then also what I'm going to do is bring this up a little bit, because right now it's kind of looking wonky. Always remember, pumpkins aren't like evenly shaped. Nothing in nature is evenly shaped, but that's not saying you shouldn't try to get it evenly shaped. You don't want a pumpkin that's like all the way down here, okay? You're probably not gonna mess up that bad, but just make it to where it looks like pleasing to the eye, I guess. So now that we have our pumpkin, I might try to give it a subsurface modifier to see if that does anything. It might not, but my last one I didn't do this, and you could kind of see the faces on it. You can kind of see the faces on it now, so maybe a subsurface subdivision surface modifier will help it. And it didn't seem that it did, so we're just going to remove that. So now we have our pumpkin here, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to Shift A and add a plane, bring it down here, kind of scale it out, okay? And then I'm going to change the color of our world to black. Then I'm going to look at it to make sure it looks at least kind of like a pumpkin. And I think it does so far. I might need to kind of get rid of that gumdroppy shape, if that makes any sense at all. Just going to find out where, there we go. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better. Maybe the sides need to go in a little bit more. Okay, so now if we look at it, we have our pumpkin right here. Looks pretty good right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to change the material of this plane to a darker gray and change the roughness all the way up, just so we can kind of see it a little bit better. Okay, so now we have that. What we're going to do now is we're going to model the stem. Okay, I actually need to smooth that out real quick. Hold on. Okay, that's better. Now what we're going to do is model the stem, okay? So what we're going to do that is if we go into Shift A, we can just add a cylinder, scale the cylinder down, bring it up, scale it down until it's about the size of a pumpkin stem. So maybe like that-ish. I think that's good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hit Tab to go into edit mode, and then we can Control R to add loop cuts and just add a few loop cuts like that. Then we're going to go over here to edge select mode. You can also hit 2 on your keyboard, on your actual number keys, not your number pad, but your actual number keys to go into it. It's 1, 2, and 3 for C, edge, and face select. And what we're going to do is we're going to click about the middle. And hit Alt and then click it to select that entire edge ring, and then go to this little circle target thing, and that's proportional editing. What this basically does is it makes it to where all the vertices around what you're editing will move with it, so it makes it a lot smoother when you're editing. So for example, if I just grab this and see it, you can see it only moves that edge loop, but if I turn on proportional editing, you can see it moves all around it. So just turn that on. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of make this a little curvy. And then what we can do is we can go to face select this face, hit R, and then scale it in to maybe like that. Okay, and then basically think that I need to skinny down this part a little bit, maybe like that, and maybe the top face again, scale it down a little bit, maybe something like that. Maybe something like that. And then you might need to scale it up a little bit, depends on your pumpkin. And now what we're going to do is we are going to go into our materials. I'm going to give it a new material. I'm going to give it kind of a dark, like peach color, maybe like human skin color, but a little bit darker. Might give it something like that. Give it a roughness of 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm in face select, then alt click every other face. This could be, or alt shift click every other face. This could be a little bit time consuming, but it shouldn't be too bad. Oops. Yeah, that's the part that hurts. Just make sure all your faces like this are selected. And just keep doing this until all other faces are selected. Okay, there we go. So now that we have all other faces selected, we can hit E and then S on our keyboard to extrude them out just a little bit. You might want to bring them, oops, turn proportional editing off. You might want to bring them down a little bit, like that. Shade smooth it, and then add an edge split modifier. The edge split will get rid of that weird looking shading right here. So I'm just gonna go to rendered. I think that looks decent. We have our pumpkin. We have our you can see how it like kind of scatters off of it for the lighting. That's why I use that one shader. Okay, so now we have our pumpkin, and I actually might hit G and bring this down. Bring this down a little bit. Maybe something like that. Maybe. Yeah, it looks decent. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the lighting setup for this pumpkin, okay? So the original scene was kind of this like spooky Halloween type setup. And basically what I'm going to do that is I'm going to add a point light, bring it over here, set the color to an orangish color, maybe like that. Set the power to 50, hit Shift D, bring it over and kind of put it on the other side, not as high up, but not touching the floor either, and set the color to a bluish color. So now if we look, we can see that we have our lighting setup for our pumpkin. And I think it looks pretty cool right now. And that's the pumpkin. You can stop the tutorial. You can stop the tutorial here if you wanted to. Like, this is a pumpkin. If you wanted to, you could like change the proportions of the pumpkin, make it like a little bit fatter, skinnier. I know I didn't make it perfect, and pumpkins aren't perfect in real life. Obviously, pumpkins can look weird. Actually, pumpkins can look really weird. But I think this right here looks pretty decent for a pumpkin. I might bring this down a little bit here. I think this looks pretty cool as a pumpkin. And for my camera setup, what I usually do is I just have my resolution as 1080 by 1080 because I like square images. I'm going to, where are my lights at? Okay, so I'm just going to bring my camera like over here, go to my camera tab right here and change the type to orthographic. So now we have this view of this pumpkin that you just made. Congratulations, you just made a pumpkin in Blender. This side is pretty lopsided. I might fix that. Just grab it, bring it in a little bit, maybe like that. Now if we view it, we can see that we have a pumpkin. Okay, and it looks pretty cool. This was a very, very beginner sculpting tutorial. If you liked it, then if it helped you any, then make sure to like the video. Hopefully you learned something from this. I try to explain everything to my best of my ability. Obviously this pumpkin I made isn't perfect. you can do so much more with it. You can make a jack-o'-lantern with it. You can make any type of pumpkin you want. Your pumpkin needs are endless, okay? But thanks guys so much for watching. I'm Michael from Polygon Island, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.